My whole life was centered around post. Most of my family college educated, and I wanted my family to know where their genes came from because they were all smart. And better than smart, they're intelligent. I was going to post. I spotted my wife, this girl. I spotted her. And this guy waved to them. And I was memorized when I saw her. She was a beauty. She was the love of my life. I was the honor student at Post. And at Post, I got a complete education in 2 years. After the 2 years, I had to go out and get a job. And I drove by the American Brass on the corner of Bank and Grant, put the brakes on, and then I drove in the parking lot and I parked. And I went inside, and his secretary said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "I just graduated Post, and I'd like to get a job opening." And she said, "I'm sorry, we have no openings." He says, "But if you want," he says, "I'd like to give you some exams." I aced them, right? She went back into the manager's office, and the manager said, "Have him come in here." So I went in there, and he was very, very glad to see me, and he stood up, shook his hand, and said, "I can't believe what I see here." He says, "But," he says, "I'd love to hire you, but we have no openings." And he said, "We do have something beneath your standards," he said, "and I'd like you to go down to the metal hose division and check it out." Didn't have any experience. I had to pick it up as I went along. I picked it up because of my training at Post. I was sitting in a chair one day, and the superintendent of the mill came in to me, and he said, "How would you like to take on another department?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And I didn't ask him about a promotion, but that was a promotion. And in about 2 or 3 months, they came in and told me to take on a third department. I made sure that I made no mistakes because of my training at Post. And when I was married, I decided to go back to Post. Because it was so good to me, I went back to Post. That was a good school, mainly because I learned from Post. All my knowledge came from Post. My whole life was Post. I tell them it's the best thing they ever did to go to Post.